Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rivalry Week Takeover, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors for the Thanksgiving Classic. Thank you, Academy. This is going to be a fun game, and we're going to do a look back through the season and what it means for A&M and going forward. I'm Texas Homer, Eric Nalin, Coach Dub. But before we get chatting, I want you to head over to Inside Texas. $1 for your first week. New members only. Love to see you over there. Awesome community, incredible writing, intel. If you want to be a super fan, you know the place to start. Quick things. Arkansas win. Good. Beating rivalry games. Good. We want to do that again this week. We talked to the game. It was really pretty much the Arch offense was able to activate. And I'm kind of ready to turn the page. But first, let's talk through kind of the season here and our thoughts kind of game by game. Reminisce. First things first, Utah Horn. Here to eat my crow. Arch is superstar, Utah Horn. I'm sure Eric enjoys this.
I was serving up a lot of crow on Twitter. I'm glad to see this realization. It was right there for everybody to see.
Yep. Aggies are best. Aggies are the best third down defense in the country. We can't be in third and longs often, or Elko will get exotic, and that is the trouble. Well, and Ryan, that poses the problem because we're often in third and downs and we're often in third and long. So we will get more into that on like Paul and I's show, and I'll show you the numbers, but you are 1,000% correct that we do not want to be in that position. All right, the first game that we faced, Ohio State. Let's talk through it, and then we can talk about do you even want to schedule this hard early? But that was an emotional doozy because it felt the funniest part of that game was Matt Patricia, the genius schemer, and that he just confused Sark, and we disproved that it wasn't that much disguise. The big story was I thought the game plan was actually all right. It was just Arch didn't play well. That was kind of my takeaways from that game. What y'all think?
Yeah, I wish we could get in a hot tub time machine and take this version of Arch back to that game, because that game goes entirely different. If Arch just plays a C+ game, Texas might win that. You got to hit Wingo on a couple of those crossers that were easy money. Just missed some really easy throws that had a lot of yak opportunity. It proved that he had some mental hurdles to get over, and that persisted a little bit throughout the season, especially in certain spots. But yeah, that game pretty much boiled down to Arch struggled. And it also, Ohio State was really hesitant to open up their offense. They threw one deep ball. They hit pay dirt on it. Carnell Tate, remember that? Really good adjustment on the ball. Got Gilbo off the line of scrimmage. Jeremiah Smith had some drops, man. I mean, Jeremiah Smith had some drops that everybody was talking about Ryan Wingo's drops. Jeremiah had a rough game too.
Yeah.
So that game was frustrating. I am fully on board with scheduling tough games like that. I had so much more fun talking about Ohio State all off season than Rice or whoever else. It's just it's good for the sport, man. It's great for the sport. So, and I think the playoffs are eventually going to go to 16 teams. So it's even more reason to keep scheduling those difficult games.
Yeah, you like them?
I definitely look. I agree. Playing Ohio State or playing any top competition, top team early in the season for me is always on board. I don't want to shy away from playing top competition because you're worried about later in the season. Just take care of your business later in the season. You won't worry about or even think about should we have played Ohio State at the beginning of the season. So I'm with it. But I'm like, Eric, go back hot tub machine, see if we can go back and play that game over. But at the same time, it's Ohio State playing like they're playing now. So just take care of business when you play them, man. Hopefully we learn to hit a crosser. It doesn't seem like that carried over throughout all the weeks. We still can't hit complete the mesh.
Yeah, Arch missed a shallow cross again.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't know. I don't shy away from games like that. Bring on the top competition. That's what it's about.
Well, it's a little defeatist. It's like you're assuming you're going to lose it. It's like, well, you can win that game too. The thought process of don't even schedule it is just like you're just chalking up an L too.
Something a little bit better for next year is they get a tune-up game. A tune-up game, I think, would have done that
week
Texas
2
offense. Yeah, wonders.
Yeah.
Now they'll have a tune-up game too, but Texas getting Texas State, I think we're going to have a much better idea that the offense needs some time under tension, hitting its stride. It took Texas 10 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was, to Mississippi State game to start hitting its stride. So maybe that one game isn't even enough, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. How confident are we in our secondary versus A&M's receiving core? I'm not confident. Do you think we can stop their run game? Yeah, I'm more confident in the run game. But the receiver matchup versus our secondary, and not just our players, like our scheme and all of that, not confident in that. The run game, more confident in.
It's going to have to be team defense. It's not just going to be the wide receivers on their corners. They need a really good game from the pass rush. Obviously, get Marcel Reed off of his first read, and then maybe get some turnovers. But yeah, the wide receivers on Texas's corners are a little scary. I mean, not even really on the corners necessarily, because Muhammad is good. I liked what I saw out of Cade on Saturday. But yeah, the safety help has been an issue at times. They're good at hitting their third receiver too. A couple of those guys are starting to step up for them. They use their tight ends. So that passing attack is the concern. I think it's the obvious concern going into that game.
Well, their guys too are really good at yak. Like a majority, like Marcel's Reed's stats really aren't that impressive. Like two of the wide receivers are like top 5 in yak. So they're doing a ton after they get the ball. It's not just Reed dropping dimes. So it's also they get the ball and then you tackle. And those guys can run routes. They're not fearful over the middle. Like they're confident receivers. It's going to have to be an all-out great game from the secondary to really slow that, in my opinion. Coach?
Definitely, from a communication standpoint, they run a lot of mesh stuff, a lot of crossers, try to get you confused and pick you off in routes. And so it's not like they're just beating you down the field one-on-one outside. It's just a lot of like misdirection, a lot of crossing, a lot of mesh stuff. It reminds me of the Houston game. Was it 2 years ago? Like we couldn't communicate and pick up who has who in crossing. So A&M does a lot of that. So these guys got to be on the same page, and communicate who has who. If you attach yourself to a crosser or don't get picked, and watch out because like you said, yards out the catch, but these receivers are really, really dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a question here. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that one. In that case, does the game become a shootout, and can we protect Arch? Yeah, the game. I think the game is going to be a shootout. What's the over/under? Somebody had that line earlier. Probably knows the over/under on that. I would guess it's fairly high. Probably 30s. A game in the 30s. I would guess. And can they protect Arch? Gooseby and Baker going up against Cassius Howe is going to be interesting, but I think the pass protection is getting better and better. There were times on Saturday Arch had all day long. Now, obviously, Arkansas is not as good as A&M. I think Arch is going to have a good enough pocket protection to score points and keep Texas right there in the game. Can they win it in the end? I'm not sure, but I think the offense is going to put points on the board.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely score, but as far as protecting Arch, most of the teams that get to Arch and get him down are the athletic defensive linemen, right? You see the big guys like Oklahoma struggle; they couldn't get him in space. Arkansas had some big guys they got back there, but they can't tackle Arch. They can't mess, they can't mess with his athleticism. But A&M reminds me of like a Florida or defensive line. Once they get back there, they're athletic and quick enough to kind of chase him down and bring him down. So that might be my only worry. But Arch does a great job just avoiding tackles, man. Like he makes people miss. He's so strong. That's a strong kid.
Yeah, he's shaking off guys a couple times. They've got to be frustrated by that. But that's just part of his game. He is strong, 6'4", 220, and plays tough. So the total is apparently 51.5, and yeah, that's low. I would be all over the over on that one.
So A&M's number 1 in the country in QB sack rate. So that's a number that you got to pay attention to. But what's interesting is their defensive rushing explosivity. They're 135th in the nation. Texas is 131st. So technical advantage. So even though they're horrible, Texas can't exploit it. The difference, though, is they are 93rd in pass explosivity, and Texas is 10th on offense. So the big plays are there. They are aggressive, and they fire guys. If you can make them pay, it's there. But if you can't make them pay, or you can't with that number 1 sack rate and they get to your quarterback, then it's trouble. But there's potential for a shootout in that regard, as long as we're able to protect responsibly or enough. Will be the factor. And then Ian's been really obsessed with their third down blitz packages, so I'm sure we're going to cover that. They do some unique stuff there, but some interesting like give and take in this breakdown whenever I have all the stats in front of me. All right, San Jose State, 38-7. This is when I first started noticing schematic issues on the defense. Perimeter runs. And they kept just hitting those end breakers. Remember, just little end breakers. And people don't notice that. But if a G5 is finding relative G5 success with that, a good team's going to find better success. That's when I first noticed cracks in the defense. even giving up just 7 points. And so that was kind of my big takeaway from that game. But we had that was the one was that the one that injuries had the touchdowns? I can't remember now. It's kind of
I think so.
That game was good passing, but that's when the defensive crack started to show for me.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bounce back game for Arch. He didn't quite get the credit for it because it was San Jose State. And San Jose State, we thought they were going to be halfway decent this year. They've struggled. They've fallen off a cliff. They're firing people. The issue with that game and what stood out to me the most was the offensive line. Watching the all-22 of that game, I started to lose a little bit of hope for the season. You could just see that they were discombobulated. They had some guys starting that probably shouldn't have been starting, and it was that offensive line was a real downer for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, Homer. Was it Scudero? How you pronounce the last name? The guy. You saw him get open. So much they started running like some pick routes, getting him open on the wheel route and different things like that. It's like somebody's going to take advantage. They're finding, like you said, they're finding the holes in the defense. Somebody else is too. So, like you, I started to see the kind of some cracks in the defense of how can you attack this defense if you can protect against the front four.
Yeah, and they're a fun passing offense. I mean, that was a fun matchup to study. It's a good team. They played hard too, man, like to the very end. So shout out San Jose State. But now then, this is the third game, and regardless of Georgia, whatever, this was the most horrifying game to me. This was UTEP. This is when I was like, not playoffs. That was just a brutal football game to watch. 27-10 UTEP. Of course, Arch struggles. And this is a bad UTEP team. They went on to do absolutely nothing. So that was the game that freaked me out the most by a mile. What did y'all think of UTEP?
Yeah, I mean, that game was horrible to cover the post game because Arch was literally terrible. You had that one part of the game, I think it was second quarter, he had 10 incompletions in a row.
Yeah.
And they were not even close, just easy throws too. So yeah, that was like, okay, man, this is going to be a slog. We got to figure out what's going on with Arch. There's a lot of issues to fix right now. Yeah, that game was definitely a beat down.
Yeah. Hey, UTEP, the first team, started running a lot of stunts up front on the defensive line, versus us and switches. And then, of course, on the goal line, we couldn't push them in the yard to get in the end zone. I was like, oh, man, we can't run the ball against UTEP. What are we going to do later in the season? So we started to worry a little bit.
Yeah. That's why these early games, and fans never want to hear it, but I preach it every year. If what you do well against these teams means almost nothing, what you do poorly against these teams matter. Those are your true weaknesses. So they'll say these games don't matter. They do. They show you all these little things. Had glimpses here of problems with Texas this season coming up. So that is the value in these early games because you'll see little cracks there. But UTEP, man, I was down in the dumps. When people got down in the dumps versus Georgia and had to come to realizations, I had already moved through all the cycles, dude. I was in acceptance starting with UTEP. And it's still remarkable. We had what do we have, a 4% chance to make the playoffs, but
Florida was my UTEP, where that's when I really just lost. I had 2 articles written before that game was even over.
Yeah. Well, me and Charlie's worse, but we'll talk about. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll talk, but me and Charlie had a similar thing with Mississippi State. All right, and then Sam Houston, right? 55-0, we're back, baby. The fans are like, problem solved. The most memorable moment is the Arch stare down in response to a previous play. Got a lot of likes on that one. It was a good moment for Connor's Twitter. But that game, it was nice to just relax for that game.
He hit a deep cross in that game. That was one of his, probably top 15 throws of the season. And he just looked a lot better. You just didn't want him to crater again. Another performance like he had against UTEP, and I'm not sure what I would have been thinking. I know there were a lot of people already starting to be out on him at that point.
Yeah.
You can't miss easy throws. And then, Sam Houston State, he calmed down and played a whole lot better, especially after that little incident with the number 6.
Yeah, that was a tune-up game we actually, needed. I thought that's where this kind of Arch started getting some confidence. Also, Matthew Caldwell coming in and making easy throws. Hey, we might have a backup here. He can come in and be competent, right? And so, which paid off against Mississippi State. So, yeah, it was good to see just a confidence builder, even if it was versus Sam Houston State.
Yeah, at that point with Arch, I basically was like, look, I saw him make NFL throws versus Ohio State. The stuff to injuries, it's there. The mobility is there. But my thing was like, we just can't have another. It's not playable. So that was like right on the brink that like, if I see another one of those performances, you have to start looking towards the bench. Luckily, it never happened. But that was definitely a down point. And then going into Sam Houston, you get picked right back up. But they've had a rough season too. Everyone who played in the preseason has sucked. But that's getting through one of the more emotional. Besides Ohio State, these are supposed to just be like kumbaya games, and they were super.
I mean, that was truly a September to forget. You know, it was 3 games plus a bye week. They had a bye week after Sam Houston State, and then you go into Florida, and they obviously did not take advantage of that bye week.
Well, that's a good teaser. But before we get there, the holiday season is here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every day. Shop in store or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list. From football jerseys and basketball hoops to fire pits and deer stands, also running shoes that I just picked up. You need some of those. The most wonderful time of the year happens here. This Christmas, give the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. Some really good stuff there, guys. Some really good deals.
Every time I see that graphic, I can just get hung up on that fried turkey, man. I can't wait.
I know. It's I say I just watch the YouTube videos of where it goes horribly wrong. But now the technology, but it's always just some guy with a pot trying to figure it out. These fancy like turkey fryers now have figured it out and saved people's garage. Has Caldwell played 4 games? Could he be given a red shirt?
No, he can't come back.
First
of all, even if he had an extra year, he should go play somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I think he's ready to ball. All right, Florida. So,
don't even. Yeah,
I was gonna say. So, Florida was tough because it's not even knocking Florida. It's a loss that shouldn't have been a loss for a couple of reasons. What sticks out before I even talk game plan and like sacks? Another example to me that the secondary had some issues, and Dallas Wilson goes crazy. He's a good player. But in the all-22, you would see like the safety pick the wrong side, and then that's how Littleton got caught on the middle. That wasn't on Littleton. And so there were just schematic issues there that you start to realize what's going on. And then in the run game, they were really forward moving. And we got pushed around in that game too from like opening start. And that's not supposed to happen. Maybe the secondary, but the D-line doesn't get pushed around in the run game at Texas the past few years. So I was actually most worried about the defense. And, you know, I was warning at that point that the defense wasn't what we thought. But the offensive side of the ball is generally what everyone keys in on. So what were y'all thinking?
Yeah, well, that was missing Manny Muhammad. That was a big issue in that game too. That was bad timing for him to miss a game. He had I don't think he'd missed a game before that. So that was unfortunate. Yeah, well, I was hung up on the defense because on the offense because Arch got hung out to dry. That was a bad game plan. Throw it deep every time, but you can't get any pass protection whatsoever. He was under rush, and I can't tell you how many times he's getting sacked before the wide receivers even got their head around or turned their head around. They were still running their route. They were still into their routes when he was getting sacked, like 15, 20 yards down the field. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Remember that ADOT average depth of target was over 20 yards for that game, which is just insane, literally insane. In 12 personnel, shelve it, get rid of it. I think I wrote that in the first. I had an article up at halftime because you could already see these issues, and then I had an article up at after the game right as the whistle went out. Texas tried to make a comeback, so I had to edit that article a couple times. But it was the frustration of the Oklahoma State game in 2022 when Quinn went 19 for 49 with Sark just throwing it deep to Worthy every time, had zero chance of any success. So it was just a really bad game plan match. It showed me that Sark did not really understand his personnel flaws and strengths at all. You know, he thought the offensive line was going to hold up against those guys on defense, and they got their butt kicked.
Yeah, I felt like Florida was the first game we saw an offense really attack us. Like, yeah, I don't care if you're Texas. I don't care about the logo or the name across your chest. They actually try to do something on offense and not play not to lose offense. I'm like, okay, well, this is every other team is going to start doing that. They're not afraid to play against Texas. They're going to run their entire offense. But on the positive side, I thought that was the game I said, Archer's arriving. Like he was taking hits, but he was delivering dimes. And I know everybody wants to talk about his performance against Florida. But man, that second half, dog, he was bringing Texas back. He was carrying the team, honestly. And I think you kind of see that throughout the rest of the year now, for Arch, man. He put his cape on and man, that was a game for me that said, Arch is like, he's truly got it.
Yeah, but I was really frustrated with the fans on after that one too, because man, that guy got his butt kicked all game long, but he was stepping into throws still. I mean, just show that we talked about it before the season started that people didn't really know about Arch, but he's got like Sam Ellinger's toughness, and I think we really saw it during that game and even some others. But yeah, you don't see young quarterbacks really step into their throws under pressure. He's making guys miss. He was doing miracle work in the pocket to just survive and get throws out of there. He had 2 picks in that game. He's trying to spark the offense. And look, when you're throwing down the field, we just talked about that A-dot. You're going to have more picks. They got.
Yeah.
Where was the quick passing game? That game's entirely different if they're running the current offense. That game's entirely different.
Yeah, that's why it's so frustrating. It could have been a win with some obvious to us changes. But you're right. Watching the all-22, getting that end zone angle, the stuff he was doing he was avoiding 2 guys and then stepping forward and getting it. And that's where the mental eval check was actualized with him. And
the announcer did a really terrible job of that, and they kind of shaped a narrative, a fake narrative around Arch's performance. They're kind of blaming him. And even that Film Guide Network that does good stuff, he was snowed under by the telecast too. And the all 20, you could see it in the game, honestly. But the all 22 really clarified that, man, Arch was on an island by himself out there.
Yeah, he was battling, and we almost had the comeback. So yeah, the Florida game was mixed feelings, definitely on the defense for me. That's when I started sounding the alarm.
So on one of the last plays of that game, right as the exact second that DeAndre Moore breaks open, with we're talking about like 20 seconds left on the clock. Arch has to drop his eyes to evade pressure. I'm like, just a little any sort of pass protection on that play, and Texas ties that game up.
Yeah, that was a tough game, but some brightness and okay, we got Arch. Did not see much 12 personnel against Arkansas. You think Texas will be in 11 personnel against A&M? Hopefully, it's our only option. So it's theoretically you can go into 12 personnel, but the only way that we can function well. Now, this is going to be a rivalry game versus OU that we're about to talk about. So maybe he changes it up because he has a beat on A&M or whatever. I mean, we did run all over him last year, but it's a little different than last year. So really 11 personnel is the right answer because that's what we do well and know we do well.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. So we're down in the dumps, man. And then we play OU. And, man, watching the all-22 for OU, I was like, they're going to demolish us. Like with our pass protection, I was like, they're going to kill us. Like you were seeing because it was all stunts and games and we couldn't pick anything up. And they got pass rushers and of course they're aggressive. So my read was wrong in a couple of factors. So I thought their defense was going to cook us. And then I was like, the worst thing you can do, Sark, is go into 12 personnel and try to control the game and throw screens. I was like, not going to work. Sark plays 12 personnel, controls the ball, and throws screens, and it worked. And we ran well. So that game, that was one he did everything I said you shouldn't do, and we got a good win.
My optimism changed throughout the week. Just talking to sources on that, we started to hear it going to be more like a Quinn Ewers game plan. And that's, after the horrors in Gainesville, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And I felt really good about Arch conducting that offense. Quick release, get the ball out of his hands quick. I felt Texas could move the ball and score. They didn't move the ball and score a whole lot, only one offensive touchdown, right? But they controlled the game in the second half, able to run the ball. I did not foresee them being able to run the ball, but we did hear outside zone. So that made me feel, okay, all right, maybe they got a chance here. We'll see. And obviously Trey Wisner did what he does against them, had a huge game. But they were just mentally locked in and prepared. The defense played a really good game. I think Mateer obviously looked like he did not have a good practice week or much practice that week. He looked rusty, but he looked mentally he looked confused too. He was running around kind of with his head cut off. That was and you know what? That's a better OU team than I even thought at the time. If you would have told me before that game, this is going to be a team that beats Tennessee on the road and Alabama on the road,
I thought they were about to lose out.
I definitely would have picked OU over Texas for that game. Luckily, I didn't know that. But yeah, great game. I just don't want it to be the highlight of the season. It's always a highlight of the season, no doubt. But I would much rather, let's see them end A&M's win streak here, put a loss on the ledger, teach them how to lose before they go into the SEC championship game or playoffs, whatever. Obviously, they got a lot of football left ahead of them. But that was a hell of a fun day. And yeah, that was probably a huge boomerang from how I felt about Sark after the Florida game, and then that game where he just kind of, that was a great performance, man. He killed it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I thought that was the game. I know it's weird to say like Sark grew up or he got out of his own way, but he did versus Oklahoma, especially that third quarter drive coming out, how the offense looked. I was like, okay, he's sticking to what's working. He's going away from his game plan, so to speak, and like, I'm gonna do what's working. I thought that was the first game we started finding outlets like the check down, like Trey Wiseman, like, okay, like it's there. And Arch was getting to it a lot faster too, letting his athletes move in space. And then I thought, that's when Ryan Nibbler started his best returner of the year game right there. That started the trend, man. He took off after that. So it was like good to see the defense, but good to see special teams, even if it was a block in the back. We're not going to talk about it. But, hey, man, it was a touchdown. I thought that was a ball game after that.
Yeah, that was a fun day.
Arch with another NFL throw, that dot to Livingston right out of bounds.
Yeah, his pocket presence was really good in that game. And, if you can survive that Florida pressure, that I think all those tough games early really kind of helped him out. And now when he has time, like he's on easy mode when he has time because he had to deal with so much. He was so sped up earlier in the season. But I think that Georgia game probably even helped him against OU. He rolls out, throws that one of the best throws in college football all season.
And then we had still, that was kind of the infancy of the offense kind of relenting a little bit and trying something different. I still, our score on offense was a busted play. So it's like it still wasn't there, but they were starting to kind of tweak and change it around that you would see later in the season. So I thought that was kind of the beginning of tinkering. But then, so we're high again, boys. We're high. And then we play Kentucky.
Jeez, man. Oh, my God. It felt like Florida. We talked about it that week in the run-up. Like, okay, this is like a poor man's Florida. You're going to play them similar schematically. They've got a good run game. You're going to go heavy against them on their two tight end looks where Texas kind of, struggled against Florida. And the offense just absolutely cratered. 8 freaking first downs. They had 11 first downs in the first half on Saturday against Arkansas, at least 11, maybe more than that. So 8 for the entire game and still got out of there with a dub. One of the lowest probability victories of the season all year. And, man, it was – you're right. We were down again. That is a tough place to play. A lot of good teams have gone up there and struggled, came out with very close wins. But, yeah, Texas didn't deserve that one.
That was the one, like, win and score only. That post game, you would have had no clue that we won with that. Man, that was another rough one.
Playing Lexington reminded me of like back in the day when they used to have to go to Lawrence, Kansas and play like an 11 a.m. kickoff and just nobody got up for the game. It just felt weird, had a weird vibe to the game. And then Kentucky was, they were getting the Arch the whole nine. We came out with that first script. We had the reverse pass in it. So, this game may not go as planned as we thought, man. This might be a funky game. And then, thank God for Ryan Nibbler in that game too. Special teams was saving us there for a moment, man. Back-to-back games. So, I knew, it's ball game. When they tried to line up and go on 4th and goal, run right at us, I was like, that's not going to work. I don't think y'all been paying attention to film over the last few years. That does not work against Texas. But
yeah, they weren't paying attention to their own game. They got stuffed on their opening drive. They had that long drive, and then on 4th down, they try to run it up the gut. Like, what are you doing? That's like the exact opposite of what you should be trying to do.
Well, stats can help coaches just to know what's going on because Texas is number 1 in rushing defense and like power success rate, like best in the country. Like just knowing that as a coach, you should understand. You're like, well, we should be able to get one. It's like, well, you're not going to be able to. It's one of those weird things. So, yeah, they came back later. Look, we went in overtime, which was welcome at least, right? It's like, well, the team will fight a little bit. They'll figure it out at the end. But we kind of blew it at the end of the 4th. I think we blew it at right before half too. And Boldy was like getting yards on us by just like this back and forth kind of thing. So another thing, even though the defense only gave up 13, they had significant yards. And remember, Kentucky's a really bad offense. Before that, at least I haven't studied them after. So yeah, that post game was not a great post game. All right, so now we're low. but we're about to switch it up. We're about to have a game where we start low and end at the top. Okay, so we got Mississippi State, 45-38 overtime. This is where the offense changes, like into its modern form. And I think it was a good thing because even with Kentucky, I think the staff was like, all right, we got to figure some things out. So that's the game where we start balling out, of course, and then the second half come back. But this was the game that we were like, look, man, Mississippi State's a veer and shoot. Levy's had a lot of success versus our defense, and these guys got receivers. Like, Shapen's not a baller, but he's a facilitator. Like, he can get the ball to the guys. And this is where the secondary officially kind of comes unglued for me, and you can't kind of avoid it anymore that there's issues there. So what were your thoughts before we talk the comeback, but just kind of defensive side of the ball first, I guess?
Yeah, I had to watch that one on replay. That's like the first game I missed in, I don't know, 30 years on TV. They started off okay. Texas came out and had the lead, right, early going, and then it just one score after another mounted up. I think it was 24-14 or something at the half. It was, trending the wrong way. I don't really remember anything in particular about the defense other than they couldn't get off the field.
Yeah, I would say Mississippi State was confident going into that game on offense too. They felt like, they could attack Texas. Of course, that's the first game Michael Taft missed it. So everybody's like, well, if we had Taft, maybe communications issues are fixed. But we can kind of see, that started a trend. That also started the Ryan Wingo on the first play bubble screen, right? Mm-hmm. He almost took that one to the house versus Mississippi State. And so now we can kind of continue that throughout all the games. But Mississippi State, luckily they are who they are. So they always seem the crater in the game, late in the game, they always give it up for some odd reason. I'm glad we were able to take advantage of it. But like you said, Homer, that was the first time our offense set morphed into what it is now. A lot of quick passing game and got Emmett Mosley and everybody else involved in the game. And so it was good to see, us be able to take advantage of Mississippi State's crater, though.
That all-22 was rough, man, because those zones were just like wide open for him pre-snap. And, of course, we see that for the rest of the season going out. And once you put up one of these games, everyone attacks it. That's why these games, you just don't want them because they show all your future competitions how to attack you. And that was the one. I thought San Jose showed it first, but people don't key in. That's the one where they were like, the Texas pass defense is suspect. We need to attack. And defense shows up at the very end. Shapen pulls what I call legendary Shapen. That guy cannot finish, and he never has been able to at Baylor. Like, he's been able to keep you close, but he always throws a pick or he fumbles. And the funniest one, he just drops the ball. No one even touches him at the end. He just drops it. I was like, this is very Shapen-esque. But we're able to close out on defense. And then let's give the man his due. Matty Ice comes in on the road, overtime, no reps. Absolute dot to Mosley too, man. That was, oh boy, we needed that one.
Yeah, that was crazy. Text messages were going nuts. Everybody, a lot of defeated fans, friends, just blowing me up, and I'm like, man, this game must be terrible. And then, of course, the comeback starts, and the tenor of the text changed. First, a disbelief, oh, this is a waste of time, and then they pulled it off. That Niblet punt return, right? That might be one of the plays of the year, right? That one, that was every bit as big as the one against OU. You need quick points to pull off a big comeback like that, and that's what he gave them there. That was just incredible.
Me and Coach were talking, like, you were on post game with that one, right? Too, with us. I can't remember, but yeah, we were texting back and forth trying to get our thoughts for the post game. We were about to roast Texas.
It was gonna be bad.
Like, it was gonna be bad. Like, we were about to be like, I told you guys. And then they come back, and at first it seems cruel, like, they're just like, don't. This was my attitude when they started coming back. I was like, don't even do this. This is like more painful to like show that you're competent and then lose. But then that post game was so hard because all my talking points were we lost talking points, and then we had to be like, I guess Matty Ice played well, and then Arch goes down at the end of that game, so that fired off a week of that Caldwell could start. And so, and I did not like them starting Arch after that concussion at all. I was on the board. I was going to war. But hey, man, he comes back. But before we talk Vanderbilt, which is also another weird game, started low, went high. Now we're high again. Now we're high again, boys. But before we keep going, let's hear a word from Andre.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results. Andre the lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
I literally turned it off the second we went down by 17 in the fourth. Yeah, it was pretty tough.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So we end high on Mississippi State. Is Matthew Caldwell going to start? Are we good with that? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Arch Manning's back. He's all good. And then so we end high, and we're about to start high. We come out swinging. We're balling out versus Vandy on the offensive side of the ball. We're absolutely cooking them on just like basic concepts. We're just out athleting them. CJ Hurd, I think it's CJ, but Hurd, blonde dreads, man, getting absolutely cooked, not even attempting to make tackles. Wingo houses it, and just offense balls out, at least for, I can't remember first half or first three or however it is, but offense on fire, taking advantage of having the athlete matchup, and it's all good. Defense is overwhelming Vandy too. Like they have a lot of trickeration. We're going to fake handoff here and go here. Doesn't matter. We're just sending 3 elite athletes into the backfield before even handoffs can happen. And so overwhelmed them as well. So first 3-ish quarters looking absolutely great. Vandy's ranked, I don't know, 9th in the country at that point or something.
Yeah.
And then so we're riding good vibes. And then what happens, guys?
Yeah, so we were all worried about a comeback, right? I mean, we were still worried, I think. And then they come out of the second half, they get them off the field right out of the gates, and they go down and score a touchdown. You're thinking this one's over. And then it was the secondary. The secondary just, I mean, had multiple breakdowns, a couple of coverages that I think you shouldn't have called, but a lot of individual player error leading to long touchdowns. Again, when you have a big comeback, you got to get these in chunks. And they got that long one to Stowers. Maybe the most frustrating play of the entire season is you've got them backed up on the 1-yard line. Ethan Burke with a great sack the play before. It's 3rd and 19. They call a really terrible coverage for it. And then on top of the bad coverage, a player busts, Muhammad bust, I think, on that one. And they pick up 3rd and 19 and march it down. And the game got way, way, way too close. And if they almost recovered that onside kick, and if they recover that onside kick, Vanderbilt's going to win that game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was worried if they got the onside kick. I said we're not going to stop them, and that would have been like an epic fail. Biggest comeback. I don't know. I don't know how many points they were down, but I was like, man, this defense has to get it together. But like everybody was thinking, hey, we're missing. I think that point we're missing Jelani and Taft, right? So is there communication issues in the secondary? We're missing a lot of players. We're playing new players. I was like, I don't think the players matter. The scheme is off. Something's off in the back end. No matter how you want to, twist who's playing and who's not playing. So. The fact that Vandy was able to get those yards, I don't even think that's their type of offense. Like they don't want to play that. They want to play.
They're
slow,
not a deep
drag it out.
Yeah, they're not a passing explosivity offense. They're
having success doing that. It's like, oh man, wait till we play somebody else, right? And so, that was a rough game, the way to finish. But I'm glad we got away with the win, man.
And then the third team, the refs, that was a pretty brutal one from them. Just like missing obvious PIs with like 2 guys staring at it, like. The refs were absolute idiots that game, but the refs aren't giving up 40-yard gains on busts either. So the refs can be bad and you can still not bust. But the refs were absolutely – if you tell the story of that game, you have to give the refs their credit for the work they did as well.
Yeah, that was probably the loudest I heard any impartial viewers talk about refereeing for that game. People that just don't have a dog in the hunt, dog in the fight, something in the hunt.
Either way, man, they can fight or hunt.
Yeah. Anyway, they so just people that were randomly watching the game like, well, what's going on here? Texas is getting screwed. That happened a lot, but it was I barely wrote about the penalties afterwards because I was just so frustrated by the self-inflicted wounds and they were numerous.
Yeah, but it was still a top 10 win, so that was important. So we had OU. We'd struggled against these worst teams, but that was the first kind of like, okay, we can hang a little bit even though we let them come back. So we end on a down note, and then unfortunately, we play the Georgia Bulldogs.
Had a bye week again.
Oh yeah, bye week. That's what was more frustrating. Bye week. I don't trust Texas off of bye weeks. That's why I don't like them off of buys. But we had injuries, so that was the time where it made sense. Hopefully, if we get these players back, everything will be solved. Nah, but bye weeks, and then all the talk was, this is for championship playoff, whatever. That talk didn't work. Texas hangs for the first 3, right, and then Kirby just kind of takes over as a head coach and changes the game.
Yeah, and you can't really talk about that day without talking about OU beating Alabama earlier, because that's that's when it came. I had the realization that Texas is very, very likely not going to the playoffs when OU beat Alabama. That was a rough game, and also you had the Miracle A&M comeback against South Carolina. That was every bit as impressive as the comebacks Texas had against Mississippi State, and that Vandy had against Texas. It was a crazy day. Georgia, the game started out a little uneven in Georgia's favor, right? It started out 14-3, I think, but Texas battled back. It's 14-10. They're about to get the ball back. They're just finding their rhythm on offense. They're going to go score again. And Kirby Smart knows that, and he went for their throat and just ripped their jugular right out. I mean, it was heartbreaking to watch, but you kind of just nod your head like, man, that is an assassin right there. He just said, look, Texas is gaining momentum. If they get this ball, this is going to be a dogfight, and let's just keep them from having the ball, and that's what they did.
Well, what was frustrating, and when you're watching it live, the fans were like, "Man, that was risky going for it on 4th." It wasn't risky at all. Their scheme was they had practiced that all week. They knew there was no risk. Like the plays were gonna be there. That's what was frustrating too. Is Bobo won that game. I mean, they just schemed the hell out of us, and we gave up 3 busted passing touchdowns, and they were just making little switches and stuff like that. They schemed the hell out of us, and that's when I really knew. I was like, all right, coaching is not great right now.
And the drops.
And then the drops, right? And we had seen that. So it's like the third quarter shut the door. Georgia did something similar to that in game 1. And then the drops and penalties were the story of the SEC championship game. So we were just in penalties. And so we're just seeing like a lot of these same themes with Georgia, and that's what was frustrating too. It felt like we had 2 weeks off. You know how big this game is, and then we just kind of play like that. It was pretty deflating.
Yeah, look.
Sorry, go ahead, Charlie.
I'm gonna say I knew when the third down place up the 4th down, you kind of knew they were going to go for it on 4th down. It was 2 check downs to see how many yards they can get, right? But Georgia was working on special team stuff the previous game. I was like, yeah, we better watch out for this game, because I feel like they're warming up, they're teeing up for something, right? And, of course, they got the onside kick. But then they had the quick exchange where they came out and punted, and they brought the offense back on, and it was kind of like, yeah.
But they had done that the week before. So it's like that's on tape. They were doing that, and they learned that from somebody the previous season. I can't remember who it was, but a Georgia fan was like, we stole that directly from – I think it was Notre Dame when they played them, would do those games where they'd come punt and then not and all that just to screw up your personnel. But
yeah, they go down and score, and it's like, all right. And the Jeff Banks on the sideline, like, damn, got us. Like, yeah, they got us. And after that point, you kind of knew it was over.
Yeah.
The better head coach won, man. That's all there is to it. Tip your cap. There's a reason he's got 2 national titles. It's not just because he had superior talent at a time where there was much less parity. That's part of it, but he's just a really good coach. And that's that meme going around where everybody else has somebody's number. Texas has OU beats Alabama beats Georgia beats Texas, and how's that so real? But I mean, it is. That's just the way it is. And Texas has got to figure out a way to get over Georgia at some point. And then we can't really recap the season without. And I'm already tired. I'm exhausted just talking about this season. We can't recap it without all the Sark stuff midweek. From this past week, the coaching rumors, Desmond Howard video. I mean, it's just I'm almost ready for this season to be over. Let's get a dub on Saturday, and then let's just start talking about off season, because man, I'm exhausted.
The first rumors come out before Mississippi State, right?
The morning of the Mississippi State, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we get that. That's the first set of rumors, and then. Yeah, and then those gamesmanship, and then other rumors, and then it just gets kind of nasty and gross with all the stuff flying around. And so, yeah, that's tough. And then Sark comes out and deads the rumors before Arkansas. in no unclear terms, right? Like is if you want a clear answer from your coach, and he wasn't even asked, he just led the press conference, that SEC press conference with that. And I'm picking through the scene. Is there any wiggle room that he left himself? Like he shut every door he could there, which is a positive. That's what you want to hear, right? You don't want the Lane Kiffin situation or anything that be things that are technically true. Ian, I'm not saying this, but like the Tom Herman is our coach statement is famous because it's literally true. Tom Herman is our coach, but it's not saying that he's our future coach. There was none of those kind of word games,
Well, the difference about the Tom Herman one was we told our readers, we didn't have a YouTube channel at the time, but we told our readers that he was seeking a vote of confidence to help with recruiting. They were struggling, and they're like, well, we don't really want to do it. And he's like, look, I really need it. And so, all right, we'll do it. Here's your vote of confidence. But we told everybody it was coming. So it was hollow. It wasn't, right. It was meaningless. And we lost 30 subscribers that day because I'd been telling them that, Herman's on the way out. I'm like, man, you guys, it's called the kiss of death for a reason, guys.
Yeah.
You need to come subscribe back up, man, once he's fired. And the difference here is they want Sark back, so it's two entirely different situations. Hopefully Sark truly wants to be back. I think he does. And I know they want him back. And so let's just right the ship this offseason. Look how much better everybody's feeling after a win. Just have a good offseason and things are right back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you beat A&M to end it too, 9-3 feels like for some reason 8-4 and 9-3 are worlds apart in perception.
Yeah. Well, hey, 9-3, then you take it. I'm honestly serious. You take the bowl game a little bit more serious to get to 10 wins.
10. Yeah, and 10 is like a magic number too. Like 9 to 10 is also a big canyon. So yeah, there's that thing as well. So and if the floor does end up being 9 or 10, then you're okay with because with worse talent, this team wins like 6 games. And so it's like that's a huge difference too. That if you can get to those points.
But you do have fans that have been down in the dumps like they're Clemson right now. Texas is not in the situation where Clemson is, it's been disappointing. I mean, goodness gracious, look how frustrated I've been just recapping the season, but everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. He just have the opposite offseason that you had last year, and he's done that in the past. I feel good about it. Here's a question. Eric, we definitely getting a portal? I hate it when people say that. Are we definitely getting – no, we definitely get – come on, man. We definitely getting a portal linebacker. Portal linebacker is on the shopping list. Yes, they probably need 2, but definitely at least 1. You're going to lose Anthony Hill. I'm going to lose Trey Moore. Trey Moore looked a little iffy playing off ball, but he has not played there a lot. That's a lot of that. I don't care if he's a senior. He's played edge like 95% of his career snaps.
That's a reps position.
Yeah, it's a reps position and it's a field position. You got to have experience there. And, you have to have a really good, you have to have an innate ability to play that. You got to see the game at a high level. So they just need to go find an experienced guy with good tape. Somebody that can find the running back. That's a big part of it. They'll find a linebacker. They have to lose Hill. That's going to be a bummer. We do expect Hill back for the A&M game for the experts out there who said he was going to just sit out the rest of the season. So that'd be, he gets to go out, hopefully with the win on, I'm sure they'll celebrate him, even though it's not a senior. So that's going to be a big loss, but yeah, they'll find themselves a portal linebacker. And I think they'll find one that's capable of starting, or at least, at least provide depth. You need guys that provide real competition, because if you have real competition, then you have real depth. Mm-hmm. Texas has not had real depth at some positions this year, and there wasn't enough competition during the offseason.
Yeah, and I'm not looking like flash is great. You want athletes, but this next portal haul, I'm looking for experienced guys, proven guys. Like that's what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be the flashiest linebacker name, but if I watch whatever Tennessee State game and he's filling gaps, I'm good.
Yeah, that's what we need. A guy that just knows how to play the position, has experience playing the position, makes as a sound tackler. They can find that guy. It's not a super hard position to find. It's not a super expensive position to find. We're going to be talking about the portal a whole lot in December, guys.
It's going to be the topic.
And that's a good time to go over to IT, because I talk a lot more openly behind a paywall than I do out here, and kind of, because we don't really want to. We're not trying to run people out of the program. We're just, tell you if we're hearing the guys talking about leaving, we're a little bit more quiet on YouTube than we are behind the paywall.
Can't forget the Kirby text and smack talk. That's got to be a complicated relationship, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I had blocked that one out, man. Oh, jeez.
Dude, that people, the media took it as like, look, Kirby and Sark are friends, and it's like they are friends, right? They're contemporaries, like. And someone made a point. They're like, look, these guys understand each other. That's a weird job. It's not even a job. It's a literal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so those guys do get each other. But Kirby texting Sark on his bye before they played Mississippi State, that's also a little bit of gamesmanship too. So, yeah, there's a fun kind of psychology there, especially Kirby knowing he's, the onside kicks coming and all of that.
Yeah,
I'm not-
block him next time.
I'm not I'm not sure how they're friends after that onside kick. Here's a quick story. I'm shooting pool in Brenham, Texas, and it's a town where I was in a long-term relationship with an Aggie. I feel I can confide in the safe space that I was going to marry an Aggie. Anyway, it didn't work out. I break things off. I'm playing pool like, I don't know, 2 years later in the old pool hall, and the guy that I'm playing with is kicking the crap out of me, man. I was okay at this time, but this guy like travels, does Vegas and all that, and he's just beating the brakes off of me, breaking and run. And he goes, hey, you know who he's dating, right? I go, you got to be kidding me. On top of getting my butt kicked in the pool hall, he's with my old gal. I'm like, this is so that's how can Sark ever be friends with Kirby after that onside kick, man? I don't know.
I went through a pool phase when I was like 18. There's a pool hall in Denton, and I was so green and bad. But I legitimately fell for it. Guys like, hey, man, I'm not that good. We can put like 10 on it. And I just got ran. I didn't even know what a pool shark was. But I went through a little pool phase, and then I realized I can't swim with the big fish.
I got good enough to lose money, not win money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a weird culture and world too, man. Like they're their own thing. Yeah. Thank you, Jose. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching. If you're watching on any other platforms, retweet, like, whatever you do across there. Kirby Smack Talk is going to help us in the long run. I guarantee it. Hopefully. But yeah, that's got to be I'm not responding to the group chat. Maybe in the summer I'll start talking again, but in season, I'm worried it's like poker. Maybe I'm giving something up in these texts somehow.
Yeah.
That same narrative held us back in calling us soft, made the 05 team. Yeah, that was the kind of national narrative that Texas is soft, and they did get pushed around, but Bobo schemed the hell out of us. Like that's what happened. Like, but fans just take it as like soft. And then, of course, Kirby's cutting WWE promos. They don't even make sense after the game where he's like, whenever a person leaves because they're soft, we schedule the team. I was like, first off, that didn't make any sense, dude. Yeah. But Georgia fans did not like my tweet.
They play Charlotte the next week. Like, come on, Kirby, stop.
I had to mute that thread, dude, because it's like 11 p.m. and it's all just like belt to ass, soft, all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys are not arguing my point. But yeah, Kirby was like doing every recruiting pitch because Sark did the Corleone against him the year prior at media days where he took his recruit. I was like, also, we're after the same recruits, Kirby. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
All right, man. This season's been wild. Talking through it, man. Just like this is one of the most eventful ones, just emotionally. And then we arrive at Arkansas, and you look, they had a great offense coming into it. We were worried at potential of a shootout. It ended up the score felt like a shootout, but it wasn't actually a back and forth kind of shootout. But Taylon Green does some Taylon Green stuff early. Washington's a hell of a player. And once again, that's in New Mexico State back. Like these backs are out here. Ahmad Hardy, ULM, they're there. They're there.
That guy was better than I was expecting him to be.
Yeah, and he's big, man. He's a big back. And so they were attacking our perimeter. What they didn't attack us enough. They didn't take advantage of the seams enough, like Bobo did. The game plan, even though Petrino's a good one, he would call the right plays, but not enough frequency to keep them in it. And then Taylon Green, they were making me nervous in the first half because they were kicking field goals and like running out the clock before the half. This is like they felt confident like they were going to get us in the second half. Nope.
No, they got torn to pieces in the third quarter. Once Texas had that 2-score lead, you felt good because that they're not going to be able to keep up. That I felt really good after Texas got up to a 2-score lead in the second half. I thought it was pretty much over because Arkansas doesn't have the defense to keep up. They got to go blow for blow, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, and then Taylon Green does the typical Taylon Green play. Man, if he could just get rid of those super dumb plays. He's a special quarterback, but he always just does something remarkably dumb every game.
That toss out to McDonald. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a total gift. I think McDonald had to double catch it because he was shocked that ball was
yeah.
covered to him.
Yeah, it landed in his arms. He's like, "What's going on?" So that's where it really turned. Then after that, Taylon Green somehow hurt both of his
Both
hamstrings.
hamstrings. It's like, yep, that's
Which I made the wrong play. Both hamstrings got blown out. And Petrino was roasting him on the sidelines. Like, while he's injured, he's like, why would you do that? Petrino's such a bad person, but man, he can coach. And so, yeah. And then the second string quarterback comes in, kind of throws for the empty calories and all that kind of stuff. But, defense gives up. That's the fourth week in a row where the defense gives up 30 plus points. That's a far cry from where we have been in the past couple of years. Now we're at this weird phase where it was all about the offense was going to fail us and the defense had to keep us in games. And now we've had like a polarity switch. This season has been so weird. It's all about highs and lows and switching and frankly, emotional abuse. We're in an abusive relationship with the Texas Longhorns this year. Yeah, we're on the abuser roller coaster right now. But hey, a win's a win versus Arkansas. Any big points there?
Yeah, I wrote before that game. I just wanted them to play with good effort because you can control that. We know who they are. They didn't have the most penalties in the game. They still had 7. But they're undisciplined. They've been busting in the secondary. These things that we're seeing, like I said, just there's no point in getting mad at those anymore. Warren Roberson's going to have a penalty. There's no point. I'm not even blaming Warren Roberson. At this point. And so I'm just over that. There's no point being angry or frustrated. Just go out and play hard because you can't control that. I felt they played hard, and if they played hard against Arkansas, I was convinced they were going to win. Now they've got to play hard against A&M and still have a lot of things go right, and they've got to play well against A&M to win that game. But they can do it. I was just at this point in the season, just go out and play with effort. And anybody that doesn't play hard at this stage needs to be gone.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was afraid of a shootout this past Saturday, and Arkansas was looking forward to a shootout. It made me feel like, okay, they feel like they can score on us at will. But I don't know. I think the Washington ended up getting hurt, right? I think he got rolled up on. I don't think he was the same after that. But the receivers were not a threat versus us, which was, that was good to see. Because if they would have gotten involved in the game, I think they opened up the offense even more for Arkansas. But I feel like we took that away, or maybe Taylor just wasn't seeing the field, whatever the case may be. I know you talked about a pregame to tight end. It's like we still didn't cover the tight end for some odd reason. But other than that, man, like Eric said, they played hard. I feel like once we got a good lead, it was over with, right? I think Arkansas had one spurt in the game where they played good defense, if you want to call it good defense, where they felt confident. I think they was going into halftime maybe, but after that, it was over for Arkansas. They had no shot. The defense can't stop anybody.
Well, that's what I was saying. Go ahead.
Sark should have used a timeout at the end of the first half. When they gave up 30 seconds. You get the ball with a minute and a half. Still had the short field because of the missed the shank punt, but I thought Sark mishandled that, and we've seen that a few times in the past.
Well, that's crazy because the reality is 11-year-old Madden players have better clock management before half, and we joke about it, but you know why? Sure. Because they actually face that mental situation a lot, and coaches really don't. There's before half, truly trying to score, you might face it 3 or 4 times a year. They don't have a lot of true in-game reps, and you see coaches mismanage the thought process of that. I know Madden is not coaching, but the mental simulation is still the same about clock management. And coaches kind of across the board can still really, really mess that up. But what you were saying about the tight end, where Petrino went wrong, even though they put up 37, the tight end has always been a sneak. So every, once a quarter, they hit you for 40. But if they spammed him and actually tried to utilize the tight end more, they would have had more success. But Petrino, like I said, his frequency of calling good plays were too low.
Way too low.
All right. Now we arrive at Texas A&M at home. And then A&M stats are interesting. They're doing really good stuff on offense. But they're putting themselves in great situations. And they're allowing Marcel Reed to frankly look better than he is. And the receivers are getting a bunch of yak, and they're not getting a bunch of sacks. What they're doing well is creating good weather and good conditions for the offense to succeed. Same with the defense. Why they're successful on third downs is because their success rates on early downs have been positive. They're too aggressive and they give up explosives. It's kind of like OU, right? So that'll be a big regard. The argument is A&M hasn't played anyone in the top half of the SEC. That's a valid argument. And then we have a rivalry game as well. So there's factors here. Texas can win this game, but not with 50 penalties, not with the defense giving up easy stuff to these wide receivers. I mean, they're going to have to play an inspired, smart game here. There's a reason that A&M's favored, even though it's not by a lot.
Yeah, here's where you wish the transitive property actually meant something in college football, because Texas played Arkansas a whole lot better than Aggie. The Aggies struggled with them, gave up 290 on the ground. Texas just has to play clean. We haven't seen enough of that. Too many penalties, too many assignment busts. But Texas has really done a good job of replacing the run game with the quicker passing game. And who doesn't feel confident with Arch Manning in control of this offense? Yeah, he still missed a couple throws against Arkansas. He's still going to get better. As one of our guys, Bobby Petronic, mentioned earlier, he's still maybe just a tick slow on some of his progressions or decision making. So there's still room to improve. But I feel really good about Arch in command of the offense. I think the wide receivers, they had a much better game on Saturday. They bounced back from the trouble against Georgia. We saw sure-handed Ryan Wingo. I love the fact that he looked that ball in so closely on that very first play. He knew all week he was getting that. He made some other good possession catches, and we saw him be a good possession receiver against OU. That's going to have to happen again. But also they're going to have to bring back the big play to take advantage of some of those metrics Connor was talking about. The big play is going to be available for Texas, obviously not on the ground, but through the air. And I feel good about it. And that, again, like we talked about earlier in the show, the biggest concern, obviously, that we all have going into the game is the secondary versus their passing attack. But man, if you get a game like we've seen earlier where Colin Simmons just took over, that could change the complexion. Of course, they've got the same guy that can do it on their side too, Cassius Howell. I think Arch is a better quarterback than Marcel Reed. Some Aggies will, they can probably make an argument to the contrary. But I think we're going to see that on Saturday, that Arch is a different animal when it comes to making plays within the pocket than Reed's going to be able to be. Now we'll see. You guys still got to take his first read away. And they are dangerous after yak. So you can get a high percentage completion that goes for a big play, and he didn't really have to do anything.
Well, the difference is Arch has a really sketchy offense, and they have similar numbers. Marcel Reed's had a great offense. They're 23rd in success rate. They're 7th in havoc rate, so they're not facing a lot of turnovers and stuff like that. They're pretty good in yards per rush. They're 7th in yards per pass. They're really low in, let's see what their sacks allowed, 11th. So Marcel Reed has had a great environment to look good.
Yeah.
Arch has similar numbers, and he's been in a horrible situation all year long. So that's the difference to me. And I'm not just knocking Marcel Reed because he's an Aggie quarterback. I'm saying I'm giving credit to the coordinator and the coaching there for allowing Marcel Reed to hide some of his weaknesses and be in advantageous situations. Arch has not been in advantageous situations.
They have a much better offensive line.
They often say that, and then Rex St. Charles brought up a good point about Moss playing. I think the second year we don't have to face Le'Veon Moss at running back. I don't even know the health of Ruben Owens because I know he went down the game before. So who's their running back? I think that's key, because if they don't have a running game and then Marcel has to kind of put his cape on and carry the team, I don't think he can. But if they got their running game going, it makes everything else much more dangerous for that offense in the Aggies. So it's going to be good. See who's healthy and who's not at the running back position, because, like you said, they got a good offensive line. If they can change the line of scrimmage and run the ball, man, it forces you into some one-on-one coverages on the back end. Because you got to commit more people to the run. That's when they really get dangerous with those small receivers. So I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting chess match. You don't get that many days to prepare for it. I'm sure you guys have already started watching film on A&M. I know Michael Taft mentioned he watched some A&M film during the bye week before Georgia. So I don't know. It's going to be a good game. Hopefully, in a short week, you probably get a shootout. It feels like one of those Thursday night football games in the NFL. Like, you don't have much time to prepare. You're just trying to get a stop. The team who can slow down the other offense the most wins. And so it could be a slugfest or it could be a shootout. So we'll see which way it goes.
That South Carolina game will show you just which way this game could go in two directions, right? If they come out sluggish like they did against South Carolina, they're not going to mount a comeback against Texas that big, even with Texas's issues in the secondary. That's just very unlikely to happen. But at the same time, they can score points in a hurry too, and they can jump out on Texas. And that's I've got to put a lot more thought into this game. Got to watch a lot more A&M. Got to talk to a lot more people. But I don't have a great read on this one at this point. Like, I could see Texas winning, sure. I could see A&M winning. It's hard to want to get a read on. Yeah,
if the offensive line can perform and protect Arch on third downs, that's the key. And if you look through their receivers, all three receivers are top 10 in yards after catch per reception. They've been really – so in yards per route run, they have of the first and the second player. I mean, these are really efficient receivers. And when you watch them on tape, they're good route runners. Even though they're not huge guys, they're not scared to jump in front of somebody either. But that's what I'm saying is, like, if you give free releases to these guys, they'll catch it for 5 and turn it into 20. Like, you cannot let them get the yards after catch. If they don't get the yards after catch, you're going to see Marcel Reed look a lot different and his numbers look a lot different. But it's the receivers doing all the work here after the catch. So that's the key right there, because those guys are the real deal. I've watched their tape. They're legitimate, great wide receiver room that they have. Gotta stop them. Gotta. All righty, guys. I want to see you over at Inside Texas. $1 for your first week for new members. We'd love to see you over there. You can come join our cult of Texas football. And, of course, it's A&M week, so we're going to have a ton of great intel and all of that as Eric gets his phone calls and lets us know what we're up to win this here game. All right, everyone. This was the Rivalry Week Takeover. It's brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Y'all have a wonderful day, and later.